Welcome to the Midlife Leap, a lifestyle talk show for women in midlife. I'm your host, Sanita Johnson, and I am excited to share tips and interviews on topics ranging from business, career, current news, fashion, shopping, health, travel, and so much more. And because I'm known as the Midlife Leap Coach, from time to time I'll share some of my signature Midlife Leap coaching tips. So come on, ladies, let's reignite and reimagine our midlife leap journey together. Do you need a soothing getaway? Well, I was well overdue for a mental break and to put another stamp on my passport because, frankly, I haven't been out of the U.S. in about 4 years since I moved to live close to my aging dad. So recently, we visited Montego Bay, which is on the north side of Jamaica. And honestly, I was very reluctant because of the high COVID alert. Actually, it was a red alert. But after researching the COVID-19 safety and cleaning precautions, we decided that it was okay. And it was awesome. Our stay at the newly renovated Half Moon Eclipse Resort featured luxurious and spacious accommodations. Our room provided a wonderful ocean view, and there were 2 restaurants on site. There was 3 bars, and our favorite bar was the one outside, sort of like a barbecue spot that had a sweeping infinity edge swimming pool. And let's not forget Jamaican coffee. I am now addicted. Every morning there was free coffee from the Market Cafe, and of course I bought a bag to go. Also, if you're into amazing massages and spa treatments, Fern Tree is a salamander spa where you can get a spa treatment and an overwater cabana. Amazing. And not to mention private beach fronts. We got the chance to set sail on a 52 feet vessel called Freestyle from the infamous Doctor's Cave Beach. So, ladies, hop on a plane, get a quick getaway, at least depending upon where you're located. We're in the DC area, so it was literally a 3-hour flight. But either way, get on the plane, get a getaway, and get refreshed. I'm already planning our next trip. Ladies, do you dream of freely traveling the world? Welcome back my guest, Kate Emmerson. You may remember her last time she was here sharing about her writing retreats. Well, she is a catalyst to help you embrace the terrifying gap between no longer and not yet. In a flash of inspiration at the age of 47, she packed up her Johannesburg apartment and downsized to just 3 boxes. This courageous move meant finding her cat a new home, navigating a committed relationship, as she traveled with just 2 suitcases to embark on living location-free for 1 year. And that 1 year became 6 years. You might find Kate writing a book in a foreign country in a cafe, writing walking a deserted beach at sunrise in Italy somewhere, hosting a retreat hosting a writing retreat in an exotic location. Now, when asked, "So what do you do, Kate?" her answer is usually a cheeky, "I do life." Kate, this is a topic I think most midlife women are excited about because we want to figure out how can we just freely do what you're doing, exploring the world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me back, Sanita. It's wonderful to be here again. And it is right. It's one of those things that we think, oh, imagine if I could, right? One day, imagine if I could. And I think of all the things that the last 2 years has taught all of us, apart from the fact that life is very short, right, and make the most of it, it's that people actually can start working and thinking about life from anywhere. You know, I've been doing this in January, literally at 6 years, and I've been working remotely and online for 20, right? So I've been a little bit ahead of the pack, but most people out there now have that glimpse of possibility that maybe I can still work for the company, but remote, and maybe I can go in via Zoom. Maybe I can be an entrepreneur around the world. So I love that realm of possibility has really kicked in full force. And I really wanted to showcase that people sort of over 45, not just kids backpacking, right? That we can also do it. And that's really what I want to inspire women and men to do. Just take that plunge and leap. Terrifying and gleeful at the same time.
You made a good point. You said not just kids backpacking, because it's usually someone does, they'll take a break after high school or after college to find themselves. But in a way, at midlife, we're finding ourselves as well. A lot of people were married for years and now they're divorced or the kids are gone, and there's a rediscovery. And do you feel that you've rediscovered yourself in this adventure of yours?
I think we do that in layers, right? I think we have a moment of awakening and then we live into it and then another one comes and we have ups and downs, so I do the high and the low of life. So absolutely, I've discovered some incredible things about myself in terms of resilience, trusting both myself and other people, the possibility, the showing up and letting it happen. And I had a lot of those elements, but mindset is one of the key ingredients, right, to living this lifestyle, because it ain't for the sissies, and you've got to be like really like together in your body, heart, and soul. I mean, just recently, 2 weeks ago, I was in a big hole, right? And I had to use everything that I teach and coach and write about in this book about how do we manage the stuff when it comes at us, right? Because it's not all glamour and gloss. It's not all the things we see on Instagram, like where we're posing in some beautiful country, in some beautiful city, in front of another building. It's not all that, right? And so often we only see the little snippets that people give us. So yeah, and I think now people are really wanting to reconfigure their lives and find some sense of purpose and passion and joy again.
So you said about a month ago, you were in Greece. Tell us some of the places you've been, and generally, how long do you stay there? Is it a month, a week? How do you navigate that?
So when I'm thinking about like, where am I going to bed down for a little while, I like thinking of it in 3 month silos. So for 4 of the 6 years, I was traveling to South Africa regularly. I would go there every 3 months. So I love to stay in a place for 3 months. That gives me an opportunity to go in, to stay, to get to know, to build community. I'll often revisit a place like Greece. I go every year, where we run writing retreats. South Africa, not for the last 2 years. Edinburgh now, Iona. I've worked a lot in Europe and Dubai. So sometimes it's just a pop in for work. If it's a high-end retreat or a keynote talk for a company. I once spent a lot of time in America. I would go there sort of 3 or 4 times a year. But it just depends, right? And it's changed and morphed as we go along. So I'm now single. I'm carving out a new life in sort of England and Europe. And so right now I'm in it for 3 months and looking at how do I do winter, which is completely foreign for me. But I didn't like the very rapid in and out, right? Because I wasn't on a global world spree. For me, it's lifestyle. So I prefer it to be a little slower and a little more connected and a little more experiential and building community. 2 winters ago, I was in Malaga, and a couple of them are actually in this book. And to this day, I have friends from Malaga and friends from San Francisco. And it's how do you keep those threads, because they're deep connections. And I now have, I have a global network of men and women that I've made friends with by living this lifestyle.
Wonderful. And you kind of cut out. Where are you right now?
Edinburgh.
Where is that?
It's in Scotland.
Oh.
So the capital of Scotland. So cold, quite far north. The word is dreich, which is like grey and gloomy. And I also have a love of an island off the west coast called Iona, which is a very sacred island. And I've just taken a long-term flat rental there, which is completely foreign to me as well. Because the last home I had was the one I packed up in Johannesburg 6 years ago. That was my last sort of permanent base. And this one, it's interesting. I'm taking this flat as a base for me, but also for other writers as a beautiful bolt hole, because I'm not the kind of person that wants to live in one place. I like a couple of places to kind of come and go. I have that sort of gypsy blood that I want to live life, right? I want to experience it in all its magnificence and its craziness.
And the experiences is something you just cannot replace. So I love the 3-month snippets, because I'm thinking, most people, they're going to want to hit the larger, the more, I guess, more popular places that they haven't gone to Paris yet, or Rome. We hit the huger places first, the more advertised. And then because it's 3 months, after a while, you're going to run out of those. So you start hitting the smaller, I guess, more secluded or not as advertised places, and probably find some really gems doing that.
Well, it depends on your reason, right? It depends on your purpose and how you've set it up. So if you're literally packing up and taking everything with you, you're thinking like the long game, right? If you're thinking, you can also start off, which is what a lot of people do. How do I go and dip my foot in? So let me go and try 3 months, kind of location free, no bad. If you're not working, you're kind of on holiday, right? So it depends also how you're approaching it. But often nomads, especially if they're working online, they might be drawn to certain places where it's a little less expensive, or the digital connection is a little bit better, or there's more of a community vibe of other people working on their laptops. So those tend to be the digital nomads. But you've also got to go where your heart takes you, right? I mean, it's quite interesting now, because obviously Europe is a lot more expensive than some of the like Mediterranean or South Africa or certain areas, right? So I'm also having to adjust kind of my work scenario in my head about like income in and flowing out, because that's one of the considerations when you're living this way. The other thing is, where do you pay tax, right? And how do you stay legal? And how do you run your business side of things? Because a lot of people think, oh, you just travel the world so you can evade tax. I'm like, what an odd thing to even think, right? It tells me more about them than about the question they're asking. It's so interesting. So it depends what you want, right? I love the energy of a city, but I also love quiet, remote, secluded, small communities, which are that tends to be the places I seek out, because that feeds my soul. And then I like bringing other people to that place to help them experience it and come and work with me.
So you have your book. Do you do a workshop at August? I mean, just to give people insight, you mentioned, there's some places where the internet isn't as strong. That's very vital if you're going to be working while you're traveling. I myself was locked in a subway in Paris because I didn't know it closed at 11 p.m. I was over there modeling at the time. It was me and several other people. Unfortunately, there was someone there who spoke French, because no one else did, who was able to call and have someone let us out. But things like that is vital to know. Get out the subway by a certain time.
That's about being like travel savvy, right? So it's like you can't have your head in the clouds. You've got to be really grounded. You've got to know your stuff. There's lots of, like in my book, I have a whole resource section. Like you've got to be plugged into where you're going. You've got to do, I'm not saying research in terms of where am I going to go each day and the tourist kind of mentality. I'm talking about understanding the culture and the community and the city or the place that you're going to be in. I always do that. I plug in very quickly. Before moving into this flat in Edinburgh, I was already part of the Facebook group. And the week I moved in, I went to a community meetup, and now I have someone, hey, do you want to go for a glass of wine? Do you want to grab coffee? You've got to understand where you're going, right? You've got to try and find a way to connect and plug in rather than just be a visitor, right? You don't want to stay surface. You want to drop into the community for the real life experience as opposed to the tourist experience, right? There are different energies. They have different reasons for doing them. Both are great. You've just got to know which one and then have your wits about you. So it's a different approach, really.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay, so quickly, some of the names of places. What is your most special place that you lived?
So Iona, the island of the west coast of Scotland, and then Scala Erosos on Lesbos. Those are like my two spots that I return to and take people to. So those are like where they feel like my soul places, right? I also have a big love of the west coast of America. Haven't been there for a while, but I guess we can all say that of anywhere, right? I have a deep love and resonance of Scotland. I have heritage here. But it's like each place has magic, right? And I find different things about myself when I'm in each place. I guess one of the things for 6 years is I have been very careful about traveling in summer or shoulder seasons, because also it's a lot lighter, it's a lot easier to pack. So being in Scotland in winter is a little bit of a shock. And if you keep me looking up, I'm in a basement flat. So the street and the light and the sun is up there. Well, not much sun. So it's so interesting. It's a completely different feel to being in Greece in a flat, looking at the Aegean Sea, right? But there's something really important, because I just want to touch on, Sunita, because when people think about this lifestyle, one of the things is like, well, how am I going to connect to people? How am I going to build community? And I think there's two pillars of how do you plug in and be present in the community that you're living in, so that you're part of it, right? You feel like you are living there. One of the ways I've done that in the past is house sitting and animal sitting, so that I'm in a street with neighbors and people know that I'm there and there's a community. I've done that a lot, because it can get a little boring just being in apartments or Airbnb or hotels or whatever. But the other flip side to that is also, how do you keep and build and kind of look after and love the connections of your family and your friends that are maybe not with you, right? Because I spend a lot of time on my own or working. So how do you kind of connect in to your loved ones? And that requires like a little bit of balance and a bit of energy and a bit of work, right? Because like my friends in South Africa, which is where my strong community is, I haven't seen them for 2 years, right? So almost 2 years. So it becomes really vital to keep putting that energy in and stay connected. In about 2 hours, I'm meeting 2 girlfriends in South Africa, and we're all having a glass of wine and we're having a big chinwag, right? But it's important. And I found that the more I travel, the more I need to keep those things top of mind. So if I know my friend Brett is going away with his father, I pop it in my calendar, just Brett's leaving Joburg today. Colleen is hanging her new painting in the gallery. Jonine's daughter's coming back. So I remember those things, that when we're all together, it's a lot easier, because we hold it in our space a lot easier. When we're a gazillion miles away, I have found that a lot harder to hold all that information without it sort of written down. So I've got more vigilant around that and managing those two, like being present and being connected to people back home or wherever they are. And the other thing that's so important is looking after myself. So I call it the lay principle: look after yourself, because often I'm on my own, right? So I have to look after my health, my mental health, my stability, the ability to be alive and energized. And it's vital, because, you know, if you think about it, when you're at home, you know, your doctor and your chemist and your dentist and your hairdresser and your whatever, the girly stuff and the important like health stuff. And when you travel, it's like you've got to just plug in, right, and find someone when you need someone. So that's also a really important part of this, of going, I need a little bit of mindful awareness. I'm not just going on holiday.
Okay. So your book, because you touched on health, then my mind came towards if I'm going to be in different countries every 3 months, then if I get sick, I need to understand the healthcare system. I need to understand, although I'm working remotely, maybe for a company in the US, will my insurance cover? So there's probably some things that that's not as fun to plan for, but that we should plan for that as well. So I'm assuming your book will cover that as well.
Yeah, completely. And again, it depends what country you're from, what passport you're on, what your needs are. But one of the things in this book, so I also just love this cover, because I had this designed and it was from like the coffee shop in Greece, right, where I go every year. But what happened was I wanted other nomads' voices, right? So I've interviewed 16 other nomads, men and women from all over the world, all different professions. And the prerequisite was over 45 and had to have been doing this for a year. So they weren't just on holiday, right? And so they also give their ideas and their tips and their resources and how they approach it and how they settle in and packing. And so it's jam-packed full of practical tips. What I do personally, and a couple of others do as well, is I have private medical aid. I personally use something called Cigna, which has got really good expatriation, and I literally pay for something and then reclaim it. I just chose something that really put my mind at ease. They are phenomenal. I love working with them. I've never had to use them for some severe medical emergency, but just in the last, I think that's been for 4 years now, I feel like I've got that blanket of support, right? I don't stress about it, because something's going to happen to all of us, but I don't worry about that. And I'm so happy to pay that money. When I see that money coming off my account every month, I'm so happy. I'm like, someone's got my back, right? but you've got to do what's right for you. So if you're staying in a country longer, depending on your passport, you might be able to plug in. Sometimes people are like within the EU, it just depends, right? Or if you're in another state in America, you've got to figure that in terms of you and your needs.
Perfect. Kate, where can our guests buy your book?
On Amazon. So one of the easiest ways, I think, is to go to my website, kate-emerson.com, and then on the front page, you'll see all the links, or you can just search for it on Amazon. So there's the title, 10 Lessons for Living Location Free, and you've got it in ebook and you've got it in paperback. And if people contact me off my website, I will always reply, not an assistant or some Moby. It's me. I love interacting with clients. I hope one day I get to meet some of you and you come and join me on a retreat. I do work a little bit online, but actually before the pandemic hit, I'd gone a lot offline, and I much prefer now working with less people, face to face, heart to heart, like really doing some deep, meaningful work.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kate. So ladies, look for her book so you can live location free, if that's a dream of yours. And when people ask you, what do? You can answer,
I do life.
I love it. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you so much. Lovely chatting to you.
You as well.